as you see below, section head, it said murder and robbery. That is where political killings are put in terms of the work study and in terms of the newly adopted structure. So once you have that, you have a structure that is streamlined. What you fund something that is streamlined, but not for one province. And you fund it for all the provinces, but most particularly the 4 provinces that are leading in murder in the country, which is Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape, and Eastern Cape. Now, you can't cover all of these, just those 4. You can't cover them with the current National Political Killings Task Team. You can't do it. You need a structure like this to cover all provinces, especially the 4. And then, it's not just the 4 that are going to have this. It's all provinces. You may differ in sizes because other provinces are small and they are less problematic on this. But you will see, I don't know, the crime stats that are going to come. We are most likely to see the 4 provinces leading, including in murder. Now, when we come to Parliament, to the Portfolio Committee, every meeting of the Portfolio Committee, we are under a tremendous pressure from members of Parliament who are in the Portfolio Committee to say, deliver the number of killings, and the Constitution doesn't say political killings that you should be concerned about. But I accept that at the time, it was necessary for the President and for government to focus on what seemed to be a precipitating issue or a pressure point. And then it got done, just like you had in the Northwest, the mining problems. So you did some concentration there. But going forward with the taxpayers' money, you've got to cover all the citizens of the country in all provinces. And therefore, the structure talks to that in a specialized way. The only thing that needs to be done is implementation and strengthening. But to strengthen, you need money. Now, you can't get that money from Treasury all of a sudden. You need to look within your resources. You will see that this structure, as an example of our efforts, it no longer have the inspectorate. There was something called police inspectorate. Now, when we engaged management, said, what do? They gave us what they do and so on. Now, we realized that they are in uniform, they have boots, and we said, no, let them come out of offices, let them go to the street. The task of the inspectorate will be done by, they will have to plan how that task gets taken over. But what you need now is personnel. What you need is specialization. What you need is money so that these people can work, all of them. That is what the structure is trying to address, the imperatives of the 7th administration.
So does that also conform to your explanation that even though the money was approved, it doesn't necessarily mean that the task team continued to be in existence?
The challenge that we have, Senior Council, at the moment is that if you look at money that is allocated to National Political Task Team, and you look at their work, fine. They are working, they are doing work. But the percentage, first I must talk to categories of murders in the country. There are 4 categories of murder. You have organized murders or assassinations. You have taxi. You have political killings. You have personal killings. This, according to the Global Initiative study that was released in April this year. And you can't beat it. It's factual. It gives you high percentages for organized crimes. It's about 35%. and the other one for taxi violence is 34%. And then political killings is about 24% and 7% for personal. Now, if you are Minister of Police, you are made to preside currently over 120 billion rand. You've got to think about the most effective way of distributing and using resources. Now, if you keep on funding one unit somewhere in one corner of the country, even if they do well, they are not going to deal with criminality in the Cape Flats. Our consciences are going to be gouged on an hourly basis. As I will get to that when I get to reasons why I took the decision to disband the political killings task team. Because every time there is a death in the Cape Flats, you are asked, what are you doing about it? You can't say, I have the political killings task team, which is operating in one corner, and killings are happening also in another corner and other corners. And so what we are trying to address is to be even-handed throughout the country, and yet effective and impactful. But I'll go on to explain other things. I just need to take the opportunity to explain that over and above this, when we dealt with the structure, we said in our assessment, SAPS doesn't have a sharp and good capacity on the combative side. In other words, you have policing, uniform all over. But criminals out there are getting organized, they are getting armed, and they are dangerous. You now have to increase capacity of SAPS in that regard to confront them. The fact that we don't have, this is why Cape Flats is so stubborn, continuing, is because we don't have the machinery to face them, those who are carrying guns in the Cape Flats. So we're going to come to Western Cape every time and make excuses that no, we're trying. I mean, something like 400 people die here in the Western Cape in 4 months, 3 months. And what do we do when we're confronted by the Portfolio Committee? We say we note. We say we note, we're trying. But in reality, when you go to sleep alone as Minister of Police, your conscience doesn't give you peace because you are aware that you are not doing much on the ground where you are required to do something. That is why we then created a new division in the organogram, which is called Operations Response Services. It's a new division. They have to appoint a new divisional commission who will be responsible for the units, just the units, in the manner that is demanded on the ground. We can't keep on saying Enanda is a problem, as if it was as if God, when He created the world, He said, people in Nanda must die and they must die permanently. In the south of Johannesburg, El Dorado Park, Rivali, people must die on a permanent basis. Cape Flats must. That is not God's plan. And it is not in keeping with the Constitution of the Republic. And if you are given a task to be Minister of Police, you've got to be anxious and keen to end that. It must worry. That's why I convened a meeting on the 22nd of November of the National Commissioner, his deputies, and provincial commissioners, and said to them, once the watch ticks 1 o'clock or 1:30 in the morning, I lose my sleep because of the increasing number of people, the rate of murder in the country, because of drugs, and because of proliferation of firearms. That's why the meeting was convened, and that's what I said. Well, I listened to General Mkhwanazi when he was talking about that meeting at Given Screw, and I have respect for him, even when I don't agree with what he's saying. He said the only thing he picked up there was Advocate Piccoli, my special advisor, lecturing to them something about the role. And he didn't say, I said, I no longer sleep well because of this, and they must go and design and do something about what was in the main worrying me as Minister of Police. And I said these things. Now, I'm then saying these are the things that we did in this organogram to face up to the actual challenges of what is happening in the ground. You need to have TRT here. Even if you take them from Mpumalanga, you reduce them, maybe for 6 months you must bring them here. A national intervention unit, bring them here, such that they are able to deal with criminality here, which must not be permanent. It's unacceptable that 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds, they must die every day without any response from us nationally. And this is what we're trying to address with the structure. And as I say, that structure, that's the work study giving rise to this structure then, which has given rise to the structure that we've just adopted, is designed to actually confront what is happening on the ground currently, including in the Eastern Cape and here. That's my argument. You may feel good about the National Political Killings Task Team. It has done work, it's fine. But you can't keep on relegating the majority of people in South Africa and focus on councillors and amakhosi. Not because they must die, but you are saying what morality, what ethics. I'll come to that at the end. Thank you.
So thank you, Minister. So all that, what you're saying comes down to this, that the organizational plan that was adopted in 2019 already, that plan involves the disbanding of the political killings task team.
It's inevitable, even if it's not said by the word of mouth, for you to see that this is what it meant.
Yeah, because can I just read to you what this plan says and what it says it means? It says under organizational placement, National Detective Service, all specialized capacities, there are 4 major changes proposed in this review of the structures of the Detective Service. Current approved national structure is attached for your convenience. That's that one that you know. There's a subsequent one which I'll also refer to. The first and foremost addition is the addition of murder and robbery, inclusive of taxi violence, as a section under the head-specific crime investigation. Secondly, after careful consideration, it was found that the title of head-specific crime investigation should be changed. The change from specific crime investigation was proposed to become serious and violent crime. Looking at the sections that will be placed under the head of serious violent crime will consist of the following: murder and robbery, including taxi violence, stock theft and endangered species investigation, existing units, vehicle crime investigation, existing units, and national investigation and cold case unit, including tracking teams. The third change would entail the placement of a cold case investigation capacity as part of the National Investigation Unit, changing the name to National Investigation and Cold Case Unit. And so that's I'm just reading from the document. Now, nothing is mentioned of the political killings task team, or even political killings generically across the country.
In my submission on page 18,
Yes.
in my statement, 17 and 18, but look at 18 in particular. There is political matter team. It's added there, which I said would be part of matter and robber in terms of your structure. It is said there, page 18.
This is not a reference to the 2019. This is not a reference to the 2019 work study.
Yes,
This is a reference to the.
It starts from page
from
16.
SB.
Yeah.
It's in volume 2. Sorry, that's a reference to SM2, which is on Honourable Chair, Honourable members. SM2, which is on page 93.
Yeah. In my statement, if
Yes, that's a reference, but and what you, or maybe just confirm it, what you refer to is what is on page 103. Look at page 103. Yeah, page 103. There's a reference here to political murders team. Is that what you're referring to?
yeah, I'm relying on my statement more than on any other document. In my statement on page 16 up there, it says on number 34, on 14 November 2019, Major General Nzima. And then you read on, you go to 17, you read on, you go to 18. That's where you'll find political matter team included.
Yeah, I'm afraid I can't agree, Minister, that that's what it means or that's what it says. Just look at, if I don't mind, can you look at page 103? Because
Page
this is also
of which document?
Sorry.
My statement.
To your statement, yeah. It's Annexure SB2.
Okay.
SM2, sorry. SM2.
This one.
Which starts at 93.
Page 93.
Yeah. It's in volume.
Okay.
1. Yeah. So if you can go to you'll see on SM2 at page 93, evaluation of the implementation of approved work study investigation for the establishment and review of resources for specialized investigation capacities, detective service. This is the other work study of, forget his designation now, Colonel Murray's work study. So he says at the top of page 103, the task teams that are monitored run rampant for years without determining or accounting.
Are you on page 93, Senior Counsel?
Sorry?
Are you on page 93?
Page 103.
Okay.
The annexure starts at page 93.
Yeah, I see.
But the page I'm reading from is 103.
What paragraph from above?
Right at the top, the first line.
Okay. Okay.
The task teams that are not monitored.
Doesn't say so.
Are you on page 103, volume
Page
1?
103. I thought you were saying page 93.
No, it starts at 93.
So you are
The
now
annexure
on
starts at
103.
93, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go with you. Okay. So you are this side.
And,
Okay.
and this is what it says. The task team that are not monitored,
Yes, I see that now.
run rampant for years without determining or accounting for the gap left where the members were taken from mostly at station level. Task teams found operating in provinces are as follows. Then it mentions the foreign vehicle task team, the multiple trio task team, essential infrastructure task team, kidnapping and ransom teams, extortion teams, counterintelligence task team, anti-gang task team, cash in transit and ATM bombing, political murders team, multidisciplinary task team, which may also be a reference to the political killings task team, knockout team, narcotics task team, provincial tracing team, and the illegal mining task team. So that is a criticism of all these task teams.
What they are saying there is that when you go to the provinces at that time, you find these are all that you find, all these task teams. This is what you find. This is what they sought to improve. That's why they say, among other things, there's where they talk about ferocious, what, and they say there's duplication and overlap, which they seek to resolve.
So can you explain?
Because this is evaluation at that time.
Can you explain,
and this is the outcome.
Honorable Minister, why of assuming because it's not specifically mentioned here that this is a reference to the political killings task team. Why is the political killings task team singled out from a number of other specialist teams that are criticized for the same reason, that they run rampant, that they don't account for their money, they are taken from various stations?
Because they are not, in terms of the evaluation, they are not as coordinated as they should be. And they write down that they run rampant and so on. In other words, as part of what they need to correct. It was self-criticism.
Now, I mean, we've had this discussion for quite a few minutes now. And I'm not sure that all of us understand or are clear about what you are saying, and I obviously say this with due respect. So my question is this: where was this discussed with the people who could or do understand what you would be referring to? Did you get into a room where this was discussed? Was Lieutenant General Khumalo present? Was Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi present, speaking for the political killings task team, and some other senior officers talking about other specialist task team, narcotics, illegal mining? Maybe they could have made out a case and said, please, don't disband me, don't reintegrate me as this plan suggests or proposes. Don't reintegrate me into murder and robbery, because we're doing well. Here are our statistics, we're effective.
The process started in 2019. I was not there, all right? They then say, this is the work study,
Okay.
you now have to implement it, and so on and so on. When I come during my time, this is last year, everybody is there. We're discussing the structure, the new organizational structure. Building on this evaluation, among other things, and so on. So we're now in 2024. Everybody is there up to the signing in May this year. Nobody was not there. Nobody was not there. Everybody was there. Nobody, for instance, said, when we were looking at the organizational structure for the 7th administration, nobody said, I'm raising my hand, feature in the new organogram the political killings task team and make it a unit everywhere. It didn't happen. That's why you don't see it in the signed organizational structure in May this year. It's because it's a team, it's not a unit, and there was no one who said include it or integrate, because if they had said so, then it would have been pointed out that it is already integrated. The work of political killings is already integrated not only for KZN, but all over the country, because the structure caters for everybody in the country.
So, but Minister, please look at page 112 of the same annexure and 113. And if you look at towards the bottom of page 112, these are recommendations. It is recommended. Are we on the same page?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
Page 112.
It is recommended that this investigation be disseminated to all provincial commissioners after completion of comments and signatures. Proper planning and implementation be done, criteria be developed, and just fast forward to page 113. At paragraph, I think it's 8.10. 8.10, it's the printing is not so clear.
Yeah.
Can you make that 8.10? Current task teams be subjected to an impact analysis by organizational development and strategic management in the province to ensure the feasibility of the existing teams. So, assuming you are correct in your reading and your analysis that this plan, this 2019, both the 2019 and the 2024, which appear to be similar, assuming that your interpretation is correct, that it involves or it means the phasing out of the political killings task team. This still says that the current task teams, which would include the political task team, be subjected to an impact analysis by organizational development and strategic management in the province to ensure the feasibility of the existing teams. In other words, this document is not the final word. This is a recommendation, and an impact analysis and feasibility study must still be done to see whether or to ensure the feasibility of the existing teams. In other words, if it's true that some of these units, like task teams, like it's been suggested by someone like Mary de Haas to say they run rampant, they abusing state and taxpayers' money, and they're not held accountable, and so on. Once a feasibility study is done and that is determined, and it's justified for that team now to be disbanded, then that can happen. But clearly, we must agree that didn't happen in this case.
Yes, I did earlier on explain, as I'm doing now, that a year after the establishment of the National Political Task Team, they then started the process. This was the beginning of the process. They were analyzing what's happening at that time. And they were building a study that would be approved at a later stage. They were in the early stages, in other words. But already a year later, after the establishment, they were busy at work, but not yet having successfully created these structures. That's the thing. The specialist units were being established, they were being fused in, and so on. So these were early stages, Senior Counsel. It was going to be some time before you could say, we now no longer need the political killings task team. This was not the time. It was merely a recognition, a concept. But they had already begun to say, you need specialized teams or specialized units. So, and they were beginning to envisage how it will look like. Now, building on that ourselves, because this thing got approved, it could have been implemented even long before we arrived. And so we say, let's review the structure to suit the imperatives of the 7th administration.
So is your, sorry to cut you, Minister, but are you saying that this was already approved by the time you assumed the position of Minister of Police, but there was a failure or
implementation was
to
slow.
Implement it?
Was slow. It had not reached the level where you could then do away or disband the National Political Killings Task Team. That's why they extended its life up to 2022 via motivations, via presentations, and then the National Commissioner and the Minister sign that we extend the existence of the National Political Task Team, which will then extend or provide finance or funding. So these two things needed to go parallel, together, in order to meet the obligations of the PFMA, so that you don't fund a structure outside the organogram perpetually without accounting properly for it, in terms of the objective for which it was created right from 2018. And you needed to act responsibly now and say, by the way, what are the imperatives of the new administration? What do we have? What do we need to improve? What do we need to change? Which has happened. And in our discussions, we find that some of these things that we're discussing had already happened in terms of decision and thinking. Let me make an example. The ORS, the Operations and Response Service, we were told it once existed at some point, but then they did away with it. They said, no, we no longer need the Operations and Response team. So where is it now? All these units, Task Force, Task Unit, National Intervention Unit, RTI, and POP, where are they? They are under Vispol. And Vispol takes 53% of the budget of SAPS, but it is one branch under one divisional commissioner. Operationally, it's impossible. You have your border there, you have, it's impossible for one divisional commissioner to be able to take effective command of all these units, yet they are there. They are a potential capacity for SAPS to combat crime, including those crimes that are being performed by or done by hardened criminals and cartels. Criminal cartels and
Vispol must catch Matlana.
Pardon?
I'm just joking. Now you say, you're suggesting Vispol, they take up 53% of the budget?
Yes, they take, Vispol alone, take 53% of the total budget of SAPS. And yet it's just under one divisional commissioner. Now, that one divisional commissioner can't be responsible for policing in police stations to make sure that they have cars, they have systems of policing in each police station, and they are performing their job, and then still run with all these task teams, all of them. It's impossible. Keep them oiled, deploy them as and when it is necessary. So you go to Gauteng and they complain to you, you're Minister of Police. You run there after 5 people have been murdered. You go there, you say, I'm here to see what has happened. But it has already happened. And then from there, they call you in the Eastern Cape. They say there are matters in Lusikisiki. You run there. And so you end up, you don't have something sustainable that runs the country in terms of combative capacity on a sustainable and ongoing basis. So when 6 shots get released for 5 nights in the Cape Flats, where are we? In terms of rushing where the bullet has been released and dealing with the culprits there, where are we? We come in the morning in the form of uniform. Even if I fly from Pretoria or from wherever, we gather there, I get accompanied by many police. But what is the results? I go out, I go away. As soon as these criminals see Minister is gone with this group of police and so on, they start from where they ended. Because nobody deals with them to a point where you get to know who is doing this and what do we do with them. It doesn't get to that point until it happens and then we investigate. At one point, I held a meeting, a virtual meeting with the National Commissioner for an hour. I counted. It was 1 hour, the 2 of us, virtual. And I say, National Commissioner, I can't tolerate what is happening in the Western Cape on an ongoing basis. I'm now quite a number of months into the portfolio. And I'm not going to be able to answer in 12 months what is it that I've done in that particular period. Please, let's do this. Deploy intelligence, crime intelligence to the Western Cape. I want names of people who are killing people in the Western Cape. I want name and surname through intelligence services. Go and do it. After you gather all the necessary information, then you can deploy specialized forces, sub-specialized teams. They now have the name, they know where and so on and how, both on drugs and others. Because crime has a name and a surname. Each committed crime in South Africa has a name and surname. You've got to trace this name and surname to prove that you are working, you are there as police to protect life and limb in the country. If you don't do that, you are generally around with uniform until you point to a particular criminal who fired a shot that killed someone.
Well, that's what Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi and his project leader, General Khumalo, that's what they say they did quite successfully. Each crime has a name. They got the names, they made arrests, they got prosecutions, they're working in a multidisciplinary team, and it's a rapid response. All these problems that you've highlighted with the situation where we respond too late,
yes,
or we never respond, they're able to respond because they specialized and they've been doing it since 2018. They say successfully.
I respond as follows. They have become a factor in reducing political killings in KZN. I'm saying a factor, not that they single-handed have brought down the killings in KZN. I'm making that point. I acknowledge that they've done work, but they are not the only factor. If you look at other factors. But you're talking about a team of 68 people as far as, or 100 and something, because when we last spoke with General Masimula, we're talking about reducing them to 68 as we're phasing out. Now, supposing they are 130 or something like that, they are operating from KZN. And at some point, for some reason, you deploy 10 in Gauteng. You don't deploy anyone in the Western Cape. It can't work. Let's apply common sense, you and I.
Yeah, and you may have a point. They draw from different stations across the country.
And they're not replaced.
Presumably some of the best or better.
It won't work. What will work?
And they also have a rotation. They also work on a rotational basis. So
they are not budgeted for. They are not budgeted for by national. They pick up money. I don't know where they pick up money from. When that 20 million that was allocated, even if National Commissioner signs and say, I approve the new budget up to 2026, I would say, as minister, I don't agree with you. Not because I am just itchy to disband the national political, it's because the bulk of people who are being murdered in South Africa are not the ones that are being dealt with by the National Political Killings Task Team. And that's a fact. It's not theory. It's not what I like. It is a fact. I've recently said the studies released last year by the Global Initiative tells you 34% of murders in South Africa are done in organized crime, in that category. 35 there, 34 are in taxi violence. And then 24 is political killings, and 7 is personal, where you just go on a mission of your own and say, I want to go and murder so and so. Now, when you allocate the resources, where do you put those figures? When you say to the nation, I have the National Political Killings Task Team that is dealing with all these matters in these categories throughout the country that I'm talking, are you speaking the truth? You are lying. You are lying to the nation. No matter how eloquent you put it, no matter how you look like in the face, it just is not reality that we're dealing with. You are just talking. Even if they clap hands for you, you are not dealing with reality. That's what I'm talking about here. Now, you are minister of, you are given a job, minister of police. What do? You've got to run the country, not KZN. You've got to reduce crime. You've got to reduce murders. You've got to reduce proliferation of arms throughout. You can't deal with it with one temporal task team based in KZN. You will never do it. No matter how you claim, no matter how many times you go to TV, you will never do it. You will never do it. That's my argument.
No, I hear your argument loud and clear, and I'm sure so is everybody in the room and in the country listening to what you're saying.
Just if I could add, part of your responsibility when you are given a job is to dedicate your thinking and focus. Use the chair that you are given in the office and the whole office space to think properly and to think reality, and not to come with sophisticated creations of your own and address people and say, I'm dealing with crime. And you leave people crying in reality, meaning you are lying.
Now, Minister, all that you said may make a lot of sense to a lot of people. But what I want to understand, and all of us want to understand, when did you get into a room with your National Commissioner, Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, who started this political killings task team, and Khumalo, who's the project leader of the task team? When did you get into a room with them to have this kind of discussion or debate? Now, to some of us, maybe all of us, I'm not sure, it may sound very persuasive that, why have a dedicated political killings task team when we have murders taking place? There's taxi violence killings, there's gang wars on the Cape Flats, much higher, and there's this team, and so much money is being spent on this elite task team. It is not right, it is not fair. You should also look and spread your resources to deal with other killings.
Okay.
And then by way of a discussion and a persuasion, or maybe even a direction, you can say no. Because now they come with their counter arguments as to why the team should continue to exist. And you say, I hear you, but I don't buy your argument, and I'm now going to make the following decision. Can we agree that that didn't happen?
No, I agree that I should get space to respond to your question.
Yes, I'm asking.
All right. Now, when the president decided to intervene in KZN in the form of establishing this, he didn't call General Masimula, General Mkhwanazi, and General Kumar to talk to them. He didn't. So let me start afresh to satisfy myself that you're focusing as I'm responding to you. When the president flew to KZN to respond to what was happening, he didn't call General Masimula, General Mkhwanazi, and General Kumar to confide with them somewhere. He didn't. He addressed the nation. He said, to address what appears to be a crisis, when I am there as President of the Republic, I'm intervening. I am establishing a mechanism to deal with the problem that I see. It's going to take the form of an interministerial committee who will sit and discuss further the mechanism that I am telling them to design. Those are the people he sat with, and it's important to do so, to note that. And that team of ministers didn't call just General Masimula, General Mkhwanazi, and General Kumar. Because in the first place, the political killings task team was not there. So they called the team of people, they called DGs actually, and they called General Mkhwanazi because they were talking in KZN. So a collective of people. They said, look, we're tasked, we're an IMC, we're tasked to do 1, 2, 3, and so on. Let's talk on an ongoing basis. Come and present to us what we are briefing you about as our mandate. Then they went to craft whatever they crafted, and it got briefed. They got the briefing back, and then it was endorsed. That briefing resulted into a steering committee and an operational plan, or as an operational plan as part of. So when I come here and I'm asked that question, why didn't I call those 3 individuals? I respond in the way that I'm responding. But my response also includes that all the things that I've spoken to you, Senior Counsel Chair, up to now, happened in their presence. All of them, because they are part and parcel. The work study, the implementation, the extensions, and when extensions didn't take place, but funding continued, they were there, all of them, and so on. Now, I look at the thing.
Sorry, it happened in their presence, you say. But you weren't there at the time.
Pardon?
You weren't there at the time, the work study and all that. You weren't the minister at the time. No,
I wasn't there. There was a minister, though.
There was a minister, and that minister tells us, and will come and tell this honourable committee, that the task team was in operation, and by the time he left office, and as recently as, I think it was March 2024, he held his last media briefing.
2023.
The last March 2024, the last Interministerial
the
Committee
briefing.
briefing was held in March 2024. And as usual, he says, you know your comrade, he did the presentation and the task team was still very much in place, and he was happy with the work that they were doing. That was in March 2024. You were appointed on 30th of June 2024.
Yes.
So he doesn't seem to share your understanding that the task team was phased out or was to be phased out, or as you contend that since 2022 the task team was operating unlawfully.
Now, let me take this opportunity to outline reasons why we disbanded the task team. In fact, why I issued a letter of directives, the 3 directives, so that we don't take one aspect. For instance, I would respond to you that my predecessor can't be part of what I mean, you can't say he will come and say he is not happy, as if it is his duty to do so. Now, it's not. I'm here now taking you through the reasons. Could I go ahead, Senior Counsel?
Just hold a moment, Senior Counsel. Honorable Malema.
Sorry, Honorable Chair.
Hold.
Sorry.
Let me start. The first reason.
I have recognized an honorable member.
Thank you, Chair. I think the question was not answered about whether did you meet Honorable Masemola, General Masemola,
Oh, yes.
Khumalo, and Mkhwanazi. Not whether when it was formed, the president met them. That was not the question. The question was, did you meet General Masemola before we go to issuing of a letter? I think there, we didn't get the answer there.
Now, I'll accept that and then respond by saying the meeting on the 1st of November, where I made remarks or statements of a policy nature. I don't know whether that has since been supplied to all of you. Those minutes, you will see who was there. And you will see which, the minutes of 1 November 2024. Yeah, the distribution may not have taken place, but it's a separate...
Minister, sorry, if just to refer the Honourable Chair and Honourable Members to the relevant volume, it's Exhibit Bundle 4, and it's at pages 163 to 177.
So, could I go ahead? It was a meeting that was called to discuss the organizational structure. Now, I made remarks on page 3 of 15. Okay. The people who were present was Minister of Police, and I welcome Deputy Ministers, National Commissioner, General Masemola, and all other people who are present. Now, it doesn't say who else was present. But maybe if we get information, my understanding is that we were with provincial commissioners as well, not just General Mkhonas alone. So I make remarks there. The minister further indicated there was even labor there.
Which page you reading from?
I read from page 3 of
3 of 15.
15. The minister further indicated that there must be reconsideration and review of certain capabilities, such as political killings task team, which are primarily about addressing serious crimes. He stated that subs should guard against creating structures, units based on specific category, while these duplicate the existing capabilities, e.g., taxi killings, political killing, all being about murders. This is what I said in the presence of management. Now, further down in the same page, you will see what General Masimula said. General Masimula indicated that the matter of the provincial commissioners was resolved some time ago, which was under discussion. He goes on and talk about. So he further stated that in terms of the inspectorate, in principle, management agreed that there's a need to do away with it. That's the first unit that we dissolved. And it's not and this is a unit. It was not even the task team. It's a unit in the organogram. However, there are difficulties with doing away with the unit right away. We acknowledge and accepted that. He gave example of affordability and so on. He further explained that a political killing capability that is in place was in a form of a task team and not a fixed unit established. So these were elaborate statements that were made in that meeting of a policy nature, and they were present. That's my response. But there is another meeting that we held, I think it was on the 22nd. It's just that we couldn't find minutes. It has got policy statements that I made together with the National Commissioner. He made in one of these meetings. Yeah, the minister directed that the presentation should have a narrative in relation to the. So I'm making reference to that to respond to the question. But I never met the three of them to say, General Masimula, General Mkhonazi, General Khumalo, come, let's have a discussion. But let me then go to the reasons so that you will see that there were ongoing discussions on various aspects, and there are certain things that precipitated the decision to disband.
Before you proceed, Minister, are you satisfied, Honorable Member? Honorable Ngola?
No, thanks, Chair. Just to check that the minutes the witness is referring to is bundle 4, page 164. And if the witness has actually noticed that the minutes are not signed. Just that, Chair. Thank you.
The minutes for which meeting?
The 1st of November, 2024.
From which he just read now.
Yes.
Yeah, but the question was whether there was a meeting with the three, and the answer is no.
Yes, Chair, I understand that part, but I'm saying if the minister noticed that they are not signed, so it actually touches on the authenticity and the credibility of the minutes. I was just raising that, Chair. It's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Then let me start with the reasons. So the first reason.
And have your
Excuse me.
microphone on Senior Counsel.
Minister, just that part, It's part of this follow-up meeting of the 1st of November. At the bottom of 3 of 15. 3 of 15. There's reference to what General Masemola said about the task team. Can you see that the last paragraph?
Yes.
General Masemola indicated that the matter of the provincial commissioners was resolved some time ago. And then later on he says, the last sentence, he further explained that a political killing capability that is in place was in the form of task team and not a fixed unit/establishment. What did he mean by that, or what did you understand?
It talks about permanent structure. He refers to it as a unit, which I said as a practice in subs would be part of the organogram, operating organogram. So it's not fixed, it's temporal.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what was he not saying that this discussion about organizational structures does not or should not include a reference to a task team because it's not a fixed unit of the establishment?
What is important is to note that there's acknowledgement that it is not a permanent structure or a permanent establishment. It's not a fixed establishment.
I think we all accept that. We accept
Yes.
that it's been extended from every year, from 2018
Yes.
through now to 2026, except that your position seems to be that from 2022.
2022. I'm saying from 2022, there was no substantive discussion to extend the existence. There was whatever happened after 2022, which as the last signature of the National Commissioner and the Minister on the establishment, on the existence of the task team, was then for financial purposes, to say fund, and then it was, as it had happened, up to 2026 is funding, but we're no longer there. We are now on my reasons why.
Yeah, but just to pause there,
Okay.
because it's important that we get this clear, because the former Minister Cele, certainly accepted right up until his last media briefing on the task team as the chairperson of the Interministerial Committee, that there was such a task team, that it was in place, that it was operating.
And I would
lawfully.
agree with him.
And that the Interministerial Committee, this political committee that you're talking about, was briefed, well, twice a year.
I would agree with him.
Yes. And there was never any, so, well, we don't know, maybe
That was
one of the
2023.
honorable members and their researchers will look into it, but it seemed to be, even if they were operating outside of the PFMA, if it was irregular or wasteful expenditure, this seemed to have been condoned. That because they continued in operation.
No, I've indicated that we held a meeting on the 1st of November, and we held another meeting on the 22nd. Even if the minutes are not signed, but I would believe that because this was a meeting of the support branch of SAPS, somebody would have a correct record of this. But I'm on leave. So I got this document that was with me, not from the office. So they would have a better document in the office.
We had made a written request to the office of the National Commissioner, and that this is what we received, and this is what we've made available to you and to everyone else.
Okay.
They don't have any other minute or any other documentation.
So let me go on. I've then indicated that I wasn't alone on the meeting of the 1st. I wasn't alone in the meeting of the 22nd. But let me go to the other aspects, therefore, or reasons for the disbandment right away, if I could be allowed to do so. So the first reason is my belief that if you continue to have a political killings task team, you are not recognizing the new work study and the new organogram. You are denying that there's a new organogram, there's a new work study that gave rise to the new organogram. And I don't want to be in denial. I am confirming that we've done that work and that the structure, I am able to face the nation and say, the organogram that we've designed should be able to enable us to develop capacity to face the challenges that are out there, requiring response, effective and efficient response from police. So that's the first reason. You now have capacity. We have done the work, you have processed together with everybody in the department, not alone. It is there in place, you just have to implement. General Masimula has signed the new organogram, and it now needs to be funded and implemented and rolled out. It caters even for the political killings, but no longer in KZN alone, all over the country. It is there, it is in place. I've demonstrated that. It has been discussed and adopted, not by me alone. Let me go to the next reason. The next reason is that when I assumed duties together with the deputy ministers, we got a number of people talking to us about various matters in the department. We were new coming in there. They would phone, they would WhatsApp, they would email. Others, in my case, they would ask for confidential meetings and so on. And I do state that in my affidavit. Now, these people, I mean, they would call you when you are in the car, they would call you wherever, and so on. But some of these people, like the ones that are included here, because they're in different categories, like Mary de Haas, for instance, she wrote extensively to us and then wrote to Parliament as well, and gave...
So, Minister, sorry. Apologies. I do want to get to your reasons for your 31 December 2024 directive. I do want to get there.
Yes.
But I was still, unless you tell me you're done, are we finished with the focus of the disestablishment of the political killings task team before we get on to the reasons and the rationale for the disestablishment of the team?
Okay.
And I think the last question was, which I think Honourable Member Malema had also flagged, and we don't have a definitive answer. Did you get into a room with General Masemola, with Lieutenant General Nkwanazi, with Lieutenant General Khumalo, who's the project leader of that team, to discuss this disestablishment with the team, or why it should continue, and for them to do a motivation? What we do know is that there was this meeting on the 1st of November where you made some remarks about it. But from the minute, unless the minute is not a full recordal of what happened, this was not a discussion about the PKTT. This seems to be a passing reference to the PKTT in the context of the organizational structure of the police. And the only reference that General Masemola makes is to say, by the way, PKTT is not a unit that's part of the organizational structure. It's a task team. We don't know. We didn't have the minute, unfortunately, before us when he testified. Maybe we'll put that question to him in writing and get his response, what he meant. So there's only passing reference to it. It's not a meeting where it was discussed. It was mentioned, and General Sabia had also mentioned the other night. No, it was, well, I'm not even sure now whether it was mentioned or discussed in November. We took issue with him, but perhaps to give him a little bit of credit, there seemed to have been mention of it in November 2024 before the decision was taken to disestablish the task. So can we accept from you there was no focused discussion on the disestablishment of the task team before 31 December 2024?
Well, Senior Counsel, I'm not sure about focused, because there's nothing that suggests that on the 1st of November, nobody was focused on what was going on there. But if you mean that there was no day where we said this day we're going to be discussing the National Political Killings Task Team, I would say yes, there was no such a day. There was no day to discuss the National Intervention Team, the National Intervention Unit, even though it has not been disbanded. But I'm saying, as a principle, you would discuss all the teams and so on if there was a day for them, and I'm sure at some point would come. And as it happens, you now know that there was a meeting that came after the disbandment. But
yeah, no, we know about those meetings.
But I wanted
before then.
In the reasons, I want to capture that response. So you will then get to understand how we intended to handle that particular matter specifically in a dedicated form that you are talking about. But I've already answered that it was discussed on the 1st of November. It was discussed on the 21st of November and 22nd November. Much as you would want me to say there was a day, I am answering there was no such a day when there was a dedicated discussion on this. I'm saying so.
So your answer is it was discussed with, but Mkhwanazi wasn't in the meeting. Kumala, he wasn't in the meeting. Only General Masemola was in the meeting.
Senior Counsel, I've said, yes, there was this meeting. It was the way it was. And these statements were made in that meeting. I want to avoid talking as if I breached a particular law by not doing what you are talking about. I'm putting it as it happened, that we had a meeting on the 1st. Now, I'm not hearing you saying, why didn't you have the 3 on the 1st and not this meeting? So I had this meeting, I'm telling it as it is, and then on the 22nd, that's all we did. Not a meeting dedicated, separate, with General Khumalo, with General Mkhwanazi, and with General Masemola. No, not that way.
Yeah, so it seems to me that this is all part of your orientation as a new minister, since July 2024, and even by November 2024, you're discussing the organizational design and structure. And one of those issues that crops up or arises from those discussions is the political killings task team. As part of that discussion, that's the context of that discussion. What I asked you about is whether there was any dedicated, or as you like to say, focused discussion on the political killings task team. And from this minute, it doesn't appear to have been the case. And we don't have, unfortunately, the minute of the 24th of November.
Now, let me say two things. I've already said there was no focused discussion on the matter, but I want to elaborate on that and give you the more detail. Two, not as if there was a prescription that it had to happen and take a particular form. There's no law that says so. Three, I've already given given what happened on the first and what happened later. But now, give me space to give you reasons why we disbanded. And some of the answers from your question, some of the answers you will get as I move on the matter. I'm saying this to lessen the burden on senior counsel to say, answer this question. I've answered. Okay, can I go ahead? Okay, go ahead. Final. All right. So the first reason is that we get to the department, we do various discussions, consultations, we read, and so on, and then gradually I get to learn about all these things that were spoken about up to now. What happened in 2019 and so on. The work studies, the establishment, we get to discuss the imperatives of the 7th administration, and we deal with the organogram, and we come up with a new structure crafted on the basis of what had happened before, and we move on with the work. All right. It becomes imperative to me as minister that you can't have a duplicate structure or any other duplicate structures on top of what has already been put in place and what can deliver on the mandate of the 7th administration in the form of this organogram, catering for all that SAPS could do or can do in order to meet the mandates and the imperatives of the 7th administration. And I'm saying I'm convinced that if this organogram is implemented, it will have an impact on murders, on firearms and so on crime in South Africa, based on this, if we go on. So you streamline, you say, I've got the machinery now, as we have signed off now. And it is important to note that there is no one, when we did this, who said, put in the organogram the National Political Killings Task Team. It has been there for 5, 6, 7 years. Put it on the organogram. No one said so. Not Commissioner Masimula, not the other generals, including General Mkhwanazi or General Kumar. So we went on with the organogram until it was finalized. But we went on with this understanding that there is no task team that, including the National Political Killings Task Team, it was never meant to be permanent. It was even referred to as a project in many documents is reflected on as a project. Now, if it's a project, it tells you that as a project, it would have a particular time frame of starting, particular funding, and particular time of ending. It's not a permanent project. So that's the first reason. Second reason, I began to say I got to interact with a lot of people. Deputy ministers also got to interact with many people. Now, others made written inputs and others didn't. The categories of people who were speaking to us are different. Maybe let me start with the one that even finally made me write on the 31st of December. A number of people who were part of the National Political Task Team sent WhatsApps to me and to the deputy ministers over a long period, shortly after we started working in SAPS. Others, as I've said, would want to see me privately, confidential. And we had talks. And there are quite a number. Now, those people would say, we don't want to be revealed. We don't want to be known. We just are coming here to say there are these particular issues. Let me categorize them. They are in two categories, those issues. They are of an HR nature. The practices within National Political Killings Task Team, the way they practiced HR matters or handled HR matters. Two, they are of a nature that made me feel that if these matters are not attended to expeditiously, they have potential, if not already, of damaging the reputation of SAPS, amounting to others defeating the ends of justice. So they were in two categories. Now, those matters, as I've indicated, they were detailed in the conversations in various forms that I've indicated. Now, I had to process. First, we started with a meeting on the 21st of November with the two deputy ministers, convened by me, to say, what are you picking up since we started? So each one of us said, hey, because we were specific, we're discussing what we were receiving, the complaints, the grievances, and all of that. So we discussed this. Others we had already started addressing by allocating, you address the problem of so-and-so, you address the problem of so-and-so, and that was done. And we're beginning to do work. But I convened this specific meeting. The resolution in that meeting said, Minister, these things that we have shared here are important. Go and engage the National Commissioner. That is what came out. We didn't discuss the detail of the form it must take and all of that. It was just go and engage the National Commissioner on all these matters that we've just discussed and other related matters. Now, I will come back later to say what then happened. But because we didn't discuss the nature of the form in which it was left upon me to really look at how I would go about engaging the National Commissioner, which I did. And it took some time before I could satisfy myself that this is the form it must take. Now, let me put a comma there. That's the first reason. That's the second reason. The other reason is around there were also a lot of other information that we got. I had already mentioned Professor Meriti Haas, that she's one of the people who called us, wrote to Parliament, and so on. And there's one thing that I normally do. Meriti Haas is a well-established...
Sorry. Who is Meriti Haas? We heard her name here now many times.
Meriti Haas is a KwaZulu-Natal-based violence monitor who has been there over time. I've never had the opportunity, as far as I can recall, of having met her, but I do read the stuff that she produces.
Yeah, she wrote a letter.
Yes.
Look at the letter.
Okay. That's the person I'm talking
In the
about.
bundle in the Exhibit 4. It's at pages 14 to 21, Exhibit 4.
Yes.
So, you never met her?
If I recall, if it happened, it must have happened some time ago, long time ago.
When you were the
But
Premier?
not when I was MSc or Premier or what. I don't recall, let alone after becoming Minister.
And
But I've read her statements.
so she's not an advisor to you.
Not at all.
You hadn't met her. She writes to you
Merely as Minister.
on the
I suppose.
31st of October 2020.
She wrote to the Portfolio Committee.
And she wrote to the Portfolio Committee.
She's not an advisor either there. She wrote to them as well. All right. So
And you don't know her?
then I read what she wrote.
You've never met her. You don't know her personally. Did you check out her credentials?
No, I know her.
You know her.
Yes. She has been there in KZN for a long time. It's difficult to miss anyone who is in Parliament who comes from there. You would have heard or known
Yeah,
or
no,
read.
even
Yeah.
if I don't come from there, but I've heard of her
As,
over the years. And
Okay.
To be fair, she's at times she bravely stood her ground during the apartheid years, and there was police brutality. So
Yes.
I do, but I'm not sure that if she writes a letter to me and I'm the Minister of Police, I'm necessarily going to take her advice or take her seriously.
no, I haven't said I took her advice. I merely said she wrote to me.
Well, you're not dealing with your reasons. The Merida Haas letter is one of those reasons.
She wrote a letter to me. I'm still telling the story, what happened. So she wrote to me and I read it. But let me open up about what I normally do when I receive letters or calls. I normally don't ignore when people write or call me. I try and make an effort to respond to what they say. There are many people who have phoned me over time, but I've never met them. But sometimes I respond to them. So I did look at the letters and so on. And I also read her correspondence to the Portfolio Committee. If I'm not mistaken, she would have written to me, and CC'd them to me, and so on. Now, I do also ask my communications people to get articles written by people about South African Police Service to get them to me in the form of copies and so on. Not with the purpose of responding to, but getting to know what they have to say about South African police, including her. So I then indicate what she was saying on various occasions about that, and I read those things that she spoke about. Then there's another lady called Patricia Mashale, who write almost every second day about South African police, especially on the negative side. So I read what she writes, but I've never responded and I've never called her to discuss any of her articles or letters or WhatsApps or whatever. I just read and keep. And at some point, the way she writes to us, I got a bit worried because she seems to know quite a lot of things, including letters written by this person or that person within SAPS. So I asked the IGI to say, can you give me, can you work on the profile of this lady? I just need to know more about her, and he did. And he wrote back to me about what he was saying to me about her and so on. Basically saying, well, his own understanding of her, having profiled her, his understanding of her is mixed. There are things that she says that are true, but there are others that are true, but she continues to write, and sometimes about something that is a mere rumor that doesn't exist and so on. So her correspondence was mixed.
So you got someone to do a little bit of homework on Ms. Mashale?
Yes, because I didn't know her. It's not like Mary Dehas, who I knew.
You didn't need anyone to do any homework on Ms. Dehas?
Mary?
Dehas.
Yeah, I've said I know Mary.
Yeah.
I've known her for a long time, particularly through her writings and what she says and so on. That's what I said. Not mocking.
I think she also appeared before the Morani.
Yes, yes.
Some kind of
Yes,
respect.
but Mashale, I had never met and I had not heard, but she was really posting things and so on. And then I asked the IGI to look at and write to me about her, and he did, and I read it. And at some point, I shared the understanding of the IGI with National Commissioner to say, hey, this is what IGI is saying about Patricia Morgan. But National Commissioner, she has also written to her or sent WhatsApp to him and so on. We just shared that generally and we passed.
Okay.
Now,
okay.
there's the second category.
Yeah, before you proceed, there is a hand from Honorable Malema.
No, thanks, Chair. I understood the minister to have said he asked the IGI, which will mean Inspector General of Intelligence, to check on this person. Now, after he gave that answer, the SC says, you are saying you asked on someone to do homework. You can't refer to IGI as someone. He has to be referred to as IGI consistently.
Yes.
You can't make that mistake because it's going to disappear. He said he asked IGI to check on her, and the SC says, oh, you asked on someone. It can't be. It has to be one answer, and the minister answered that. So I just wanted us to have the same understanding.
That it must go to the record as the person that the minister requested to check on Miss Patricia Mashale. That person is the Inspector General of Intelligence.
Point taken, Honorable Malema.
Yes.
So I wrote to the IGI and He then responded.
So, Minister, you say the name of the person is Miss Patricia Marshall,
Yes, yes, Chair.
and the matter was referred to the Inspector General of Intelligence.
Yes, because in particular, she would write about crime intelligence matters quite extensively, and she would send emails and so on. That's why I went to the Inspector General of Intelligence. And then I got the advice in writing about her. Now,
So when you say that she used to write extensively about intelligence matters, what do you mean? You mean it's unusual for a person in her position to write about those matters? Or did she have a more than sufficient information that you would ordinarily expect her to have?
what she did is write and send you a WhatsApp on your phone on a frequent basis, not regular, frequent basis. She would send you documents which appeared to be SAPS documents, genuine, but send them to you. She would send you reports of one situation or the other, criminality, and so on. She wrote also about, she sent me about that those weapons and people that we found in Mpumalanga. She wrote.
I want to know, is she qualified to be in possession of such information?
I wouldn't say she qualifies because
not all of it. Other information may be general or public information that everybody knows is reported in the news. So what we want to establish is whether is there some of the information which when she converses with you, you get worried that an ordinary civilian may not have to be in possession of information like this one because this is SAPS information.
Yeah. The frequency with which she wrote and the stuff she wrote and sent and so on is the one that made me say, who is this person? IGI, can you profile? And after that, I spoke to the National Commissioner who confirmed that he too does receive those kinds of things from Patricia. And she likes doing that on a frequent basis, almost to everybody and so on. That's the nature of things. And I'm merely mentioning in passing that she also did write. Now, this is what we were talking about, not necessarily in detail with the deputy ministers. Now, I said I would come back to that other category I started with, but this is what happened. The other reason is around budget matters. Now, on budget, I'm trying to check my submission where I wrote about budget. On budget, I've already indicated that throughout, or let me indicate that throughout our discussions with SAPS management, from when we arrived during orientation up to the end of the year and beginning of the year, there was always focus and emphasis on the decreased budget. In other words, decreased resources within SAPS. You would ask, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? They will always say, there's no money. There's no money. Even after we identified what we referred to as priorities, ministerial priorities, that were expanding on the other priorities of the state as a whole. But they continued, like technology, for instance. we have had extensive discussions on technology. And they continue to say, well, yeah, we take those priorities, infrastructure in the form of police stations and other enablers, as we call them. But they continue to say, there's no budget. We don't have all the money. We hear you, we hear the priorities and so on, but there's no money. And therefore, this was lingering in my mind all the time to say, where can we make better of resources to subs because of the shortage? So budget allocated to subs was one of the main factors, key factors that made us think, what is that we need to do? When we took the decision to disband the police inspectorate, what we had in mind was, how do we optimize the resources that we have? Because you have people in office in the form of police inspectorate who you may seemingly not require in that form, but you require them, their skills, their experience, and their work elsewhere. You definitely need them. And so that's why we then say, maybe we need to deploy them, redeploy them elsewhere, optimizing on the budget. Now, as we did so, the budget allocated to subs became one of the things that I considered when I wrote the letter, to give effect to more optimization of our resources from within subs, and we did that. Now, the budget became quite a difficult subject. I want to, on my supplement, say something about this. It came to a point where, on the budget, we had to consider certain things. One of them is what I had the National Commissioner mention during the commission, Malanga Commission, and subsequent I had, when I listened to Kumalo, General Kumalo, I heard him say, I will repeat those things. They were, in responding to questions that were asked, responded using the language inclusive of traditional ways of investigation, normal ways of investigating, common ways of investigating. Of course, they were responding. But what it revealed, without them intending to do so, was that in police, we make a differentiation between a way in which political killings task team, which is efficient, which is good, the way in which they investigate cases, good. Let me not talk about results, just good, that they approach things that way. But this is confined to a specific category of people. The rest of the people are condemned to common ways of investigating, traditional ways of investigating, and common ways of investigating. Now, from where I sit as minister, we can't go on like that. You can't say, because it's a public representative, I must employ this particular specialized way of investigating. But because it's not a public representative, or it's not an induna, let us use the normal or traditional or common way of investigation. The Constitution doesn't say so. What we rather can do is to take the experience that the National Political Task Team has gone through. You then make it apply all over as a good practice different from the practice that is called traditional, that is called normal. To me, this is one of the ticking bombs in the South African Police Service, especially when you pronounce it that there are various levels of in terms of quality of investigating. That talks to your ethics. It talks to your kind of mentality, the kind of practice that you want to see established and perpetrated within SAPS. You don't want to do that from my side. And the Constitution does allow us to do that. We need to improve. If there is a particular experience that we have gained from a province in one way or the other, let it be taken and duplicated elsewhere, because everybody requires speciality and attention. We can't justify it on an ongoing basis. It's unfair and unconstitutional. So I'm on the budget that it has got dynamics in it such that, in summary, you need to optimize how you use your budget. And I'm saying there are ways in which we have intervened to optimize. We even held a meeting. We called it the optimization of the budget. How effective, how efficient would we use the budget for this particular purpose?